Good afternoon, and this is Christy Knights with Unsung Heroes Live. I am here with a dear friend, Brynne, and I am so excited to share with you about Brynne and who she is, what she brings to the table of life, and how she's truly a hero. So how are you doing today, Brynne?
I'm great, Christy. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much. So Brynne, share with the audience a little bit about your background, what you do, and how you got to be so successful.
Oh, well, thanks. Yeah, I sort of accidentally landed in the social selling space over the years. I did start off in a sales position with Dun & Bradstreet right out of college, taking inbound calls and then making it to the field where I really fell in love with sales, and then was a producer and sales trainer for many years.
Great.
And then in 2008, I came across LinkedIn and realized very quickly that this was a revolutionary tool to really help people in business development and sales take their business to another level by really leveraging their existing network. So I started really training it and ultimately creating curriculum for large companies like Aramark, and ultimately, yeah, and it was a lot of fun. And now I joined forces with 4 other leading experts in the industry. And just about a year ago, we formed Vengresso, which is a digital sales transformation company.
Yes. So talk to us about Vengresso a little bit so the audience understands.
Well, we saw there were some gaps in, first, the sales world, the sales training world, where we really didn't see a lot of social selling at mass scale. You had a lot of pockets and individuals and entrepreneurs training LinkedIn and social selling, but there wasn't really a scalable program out there, number one.
Yes.
Number two, the ones that were almost scalable were really missing some of the key components that really create successful social sellers in the industry. So the 5 of us came together. Actually, our CEO, Mario Martinez, approached each of us and said, together, we really hit all the elements that are absolutely necessary for whether you're an entrepreneur or you're part of a 10,000 person sales team need in order to truly leverage LinkedIn and social selling, digital sales to grow business. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. That is great. So talk to me about your stress levels as you're forming a company.
Well, so, whatever you do, there's stress levels for sure. I feel very fortunate that we really work beautifully as a team. And the interesting thing is, although there are definitely time frames and larger clients and a lot of balls in the air at the same time, trying to juggle, having the support of other folks to fill in when you can't do something or if you're overwhelmed actually has been fantastic. Okay. So, there are definitely, I never had, as an entrepreneur, I always did very well, but I never had a number that I had to hit, right? And so, there's a little bit of that back to corporate America feel a little bit, but generally speaking, it's a very exciting time, and the right people are in place. So that helps the stress levels for sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So share with me, your ability to work within a group dynamic, because that's always a challenge for people. What are some of your characteristics that you think allow it to be successful?
Well, so I think the interesting thing is when we first started talking about this and forming this, what went through my head is, oh my gosh, that's a lot of egos in a room, right? a lot of chefs in the kitchen, right?
Yes.
I'll give Mario a lot of credit for this. What he's really done is he's helped us to define swim lanes. So we all have specific responsibilities, and we each own something. I'm curriculum, so I own creating the curriculum and all the programs that we train, our LMS, all that fun stuff. And although I absolutely, because I honor it and cherish everybody's ideas, thoughts, I have the last say when it comes to curriculum. Each of us have our swim lane. And so although we can lobby to try and influence another swim lane, that's the way that it's been designed from day one to really allow a buck to stop somewhere.
Yes.
So your question though was what I bring,
Yes.
which is a harder one to answer, right?
It is, Brynne.
So I think this might be a cop-out, but I think what I bring is that I value each and every one of my partners' ability to thrive in their own swim lane. And so I'm willing to give it up and just say, you know what, they're amazing at what they do, and let it go. That was a learned behavior. I certainly did not have that initially. But once I saw the deliverables, it was a no-brainer.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I was going to say, is that does not come naturally to most people. Egos, like you said, really get in the way due to our own insecurities and fears that we have. So what past experiences have you had prior to this that have really allowed you to be prepared to set aside your ego?
Oh, I never said I set it aside.
I was putting words in your mouth.
I may have alluded to that, but that might have been misleading.
Thank you for your honesty.
As a trainer, as someone, I'm a speaker. What feeds me is an audience and people that love what I do. So there's a lot of ego in that. I mean, it's a lot more than money. What feeds me is, team comes back and says, we doubled our pipeline. That gets me excited. So I can never say that ego has left the building, but sharing the stage with other people that are so grand, actually in some ways, I feel has elevated my brand. Instead of initially thinking, well, they're getting, it's like, so I'm going to back up and make this personal for a minute. I have identical twin boys.
Oh, wow. How cool.
So I think my biggest lesson comes from, that there was always two of them, and they never fought for attention. They always were proud of one another, still always are proud of one another. Even in sports, although they're very competitive, if one really succeeds and breaks his own record, even if the other one doesn't, there's a lot of I want to beat you, but if I don't, I'm really proud that you did well. And so I think I learned from them.
Wow. Okay.
Really how to balance, I want to be on top, but I'm okay being proud of the people around me and helping to elevate them succeed as well. So I would say it was my lesson from them that probably helps me handle where we are today.
What's interesting, as a psychotherapist, of course, my next statement will be, in terms of learning from them, we learn from our children all the time. I absolutely agree with you. I was really struggling, and my daughter brought me back to the church, with her own desire to be in the church, where I was supposed to be leading her in that. Instead, I had lost some faith, and she brought me back.
I love that.
Yeah, it's a very powerful time in our life, and it was pretty recent over the last couple of years. So what I want to ask though is I believe that they are part of you, that you have taught them this level of resiliency and how to love. So as a mom, what lessons do you feel like you taught them? Because I talk to parents all the time who have twins, and they get so frustrated that their twins do not get along, that they can't stand each other. So what did you do as a mom to make that happen, Brynne?
Well, it's interesting. I did not have the best modeling for parenting. And I have a daughter who is 27. I was young when I had her. Not that young, but I like to say that. It makes me feel better when I say she's 27. She's getting married in September. And I was young when I had her, and I had to learn how to be a good parent. And I think there was a lot of conscious choices versus going with my gut. If I went with my gut was usually wrong, which was interesting. It was, my frustration levels were unreasonable. I'd get frustrated and I'd have to talk myself down. So it was a lot of really making conscious choices. And I always came from one goal, which is my only goal with my children, period. One goal: to raise happy, healthy, successful human beings that lead a good life.
Yes.
So I had to look at everything I was doing and how I reacted to things. And if there was a bad test grade, what is the way to react, right? So my natural reaction would have been freaking out. I can't believe you failed a test, or how dare you not get your homework in? We're working so hard to put food on your table, right? Like that's the natural,
Yes,
like,
absolutely.
this is your only job. Can't you do it?
Right. I've been there.
That's the natural reaction. And then I would say, if I handle it this way, is it leading to my goal of raising an independent, happy, healthy, successful human being? And the answer is usually no, when that's your reaction. So I like to look at it as, what lesson and how do I need to teach this lesson so that it doesn't happen again?
Yes.
So I have to swallow my gut reactions and sit down and say, all right, clearly this is not acceptable. We know that, if you want to get into good colleges and, this is your goal and this is where you want to be. So what do you think you need to do in order to avoid ever getting a grade like this again? And now we have these great conversations. There's no blow up. There's no anger. There's no tension. And my kids work much harder for it because now it's part of their DNA. They're not doing it because I told them they had to, or they lose privileges.
Yes.
Right. And and even so they're gamers, they're computer gamers. Yes. And I can say now without argument, all right, how much homework do you have? If you start now, that's going to give you 30 minutes to game before you go to bed. Instead of saying you're not gaming until that's all done, I help them figure out how to time manage so that they can game, because that's what's going to give them that balanced life later on.
Oh, I absolutely love it. And that is stellar parenting for sure. So share with our audience, let's take a step back. You said it wasn't really taught to you, that you had to learn how to really swallow your gut or ignore the gut to find a healthy response. How did you learn that skill of identifying that my gut isn't healthy and I need to do something different?
Well, it's kind of funny that you asked that. The first part of that was really professional development. So I started, I started in a sales role with a young baby, and really had to figure out how to be successful so I could feed this baby and go to Disney World with this baby, right? Like, how do I do that? And, I graduated with a degree in culinary arts and hospitality management, and now I'm in a sales role because that industry was not conducive to being a parent.
Yes.
So someone said, go into sales, you can make a lot of money. And I said, okay.
Right.
Okay. And I like people. I'm definitely an extrovert. So it was a good role for me. But I didn't know anything about it, or I thought I didn't know anything about it. And so I started reading and listening to books on tape and learning, and everything I was picking up. Well, Franklin Covey, for example, with 7 Habits, right? So start with the end in mind. So I was learning it professionally and started adapting it personally. It's probably a good way to look at that. And then I started researching. Once I realized the correlation, I started kind of researching and learning. And there were no mommy blogs at that time because
right.
we didn't have that. But there was definitely there were TV shows at the time that had some really good parenting advice. And so I just kept picking up, and I would talk to moms. And I had a great sister-in-law who we talked through stuff. So it was good, and it was just like everything else, a life process.
Absolutely. And I love when our professional lives overlap with our personal lives in terms of life lessons. I think it happens all the time. and people miss it, right? And when you have that opportunity to apply it, it's even more powerful. So talk to me about the cultivation of your level of confidence and how that's been through the years.
Confidence is a funny thing.
Yes.
Strangely. So I always had, growing up, I struggled with some friendships. And I think part of my personality and I work at this, is maybe it's even on the spectrum where I have boundary. Like I will say something that might offend someone with no intention whatsoever, or might be. So when I was young, I think I probably, in an effort to make friends, probably put some people off. And interesting, all of my friends, and I had great friendships, none of them were in my school. They were all like in other schools and weekend friendships. And but the people in my school, I was always that outcast a little bit. So another area that I had to consciously work on to ensure that I wasn't overstepping any bounds with folks. And I did definitely throughout the years in college, I had some really great friends that I stay connected to now. And so I did learn over the years, but the confidence level with people was pretty low for a long time. And which, you know, going back to what motivates me, are people saying, hey, Brynne, that was awesome. You're amazing. Like that's what feeds me, because of a low confidence, not of a high confidence.
Yes.
So it's such an interesting question. Now, where I am confident today is I do believe that we have, as a company, that I have brought some of the best content in the LinkedIn and social selling world. And it's because I have literally dedicated my professional life to being the best at it. And I think at one point in my life, so I'm also dyslexic and I had some learning disabilities, which also was part of the whole like school being awkward and, you know, why is she so lazy? And it wasn't lazy, just I didn't read till I was in third grade. Like, you know,
challenging, yeah.
Right. So all of those things cultivated, and I think, and I always felt like I'm not as dumb as they think I am.
Okay.
But on the other side, thinking, well, then why am I struggling? And from a very young age, I remember saying, someday I want to be the best in the world at something. I just want to be the best in the world. I wasn't a great athlete. I wasn't a great scholar. I'm not great politically, like all these things. So, you know, so what do I do? All right, I'm going to be a great salesperson. And now I get in and, you know, there's so many better salespeople. I mean, I think I was very good, but there's so many. And I found this niche and I latched onto this niche. First, I love it and I love technology.
Yes.
And I love sales and I love sales training. And very early on, I feel like I really embraced this and made this my best in the world thing.
Yes.
And so I have confidence around that. I also have confidence around my children. Like I believe they're wonderful human beings and I feel really good. But there are a lot of areas in my life I'm not so confident about, just like everyone else, right? So it's a constant balance of just continuing to be the best at what and you've got to love it, you've got to be really good at it, and you have to be able to monetize it. Like people have to be willing to pay you. And if you can get those three things lined up, you will get confidence. Like the confidence will come because you'll have success.
Yes. So in those areas where you may not feel as confident, how do you increase your confidence? How do you work through them?
So I have a lot of self-deprecating behavior in some ways, like a stand-up comic might have,
yes.
where I'm really honest about it and can express it in a way that could potentially be funny. But again, like that's where I kind of, you know, get up to boundaries with, you know, I'm totally transparent. So if I'm not comfortable in a situation, like I will literally, if I'm talking with someone and I feel like, oh my gosh, I can't, like, sometimes I'll go to an event and an author that I'm in awe of, and I meet them and I become like this giddy kid.
Yeah.
They're happy to meet me too, but to me, I'm like, and I feel inferior isn't the word, but I definitely like, I'm looking at them like the superstar. And I'll say that. I'm like, oh my God, I feel like a little kid and I can't believe I'm talking to you, right? So other people be like, oh my God, I can't believe you just said that. You're a goof. I'll say it. In the same regard, if I'm in a situation and I'm feeling a little like out of place, I'll say, I'm feeling a little awkward and out of place here. I'd love to kind of get back in. Tell me, what do we need to do to kind of work that out? And people sometimes will look at me and go, really, did you just say that? So I think just being authentic about where you are, including being insecure and not confident, and like, this is where I am, guys. This is where I want to go. Let's work on it.
Absolutely. Yeah, you and I have a similar past. I struggled in high school and college with female relationships. Really just never had that core group, just felt left out. The people that I did relate to were literally in other schools. I danced in the evenings, like 6 days a week. And so my dance studio was my safe place, but they were all kids that went to other schools, so I really struggled fitting in at school. Day to day, and looking at how do I hone those female relationships? How do I work on them? And it didn't become a priority to me until the last few years.
Interesting.
Like you, I often say things I shouldn't, but my case is I go too deep, too fast. And that's how I say it with humor. I'm like, yes, I go too deep, too fast. Most people don't thrive well in a relationship with me because they can't. They don't want to go so deep, so fast. And it's hard to be transparent, right? With someone who can't go deep fast, for me.
Well, so in some ways, that's a good sort of filtering mechanism for you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, so it's just like dating. Like, there are all of these relationships. So it's good that they qualify out fast.
That's true.
Why waste time? I've wasted time on friendships that either not blew up, but just whatever, didn't work out. And I have really a core 3 women in my life that I love, that are my sisters, by choice.
Yeah.
My closest friend, I didn't meet until 15 years ago, maybe 16 years ago. Right. So, and I still have friends from college that are Facebook friends. I have one local friend. But I understand that. And sometimes I think it's like, I'm not out to make new friends.
Right.
Anymore,
That's right? What I say too.
If I make one, it's a bonus.
Right.
But I think the difference now is let them qualify themselves out. So you go deep fast. If they don't like deep fast, then it's not meant to be, I think.
Yeah, that's very true. That's very true. And I think, as women, when we come to a place in our lives where we are truly able to be authentic and transparent, that's when we really feel the confidence and grow exponentially, personally and professionally, when we can own it, right? So has there been a time in your life where you struggled with some anxiety or depression?
Anxiety, there's always some level since childhood, I think. I mean, I think, and it's like it ebb and flows, but I don't think I've met one person who could honestly say that there is not some level of anxiety in their life at one point. At every point in their life, that there's some level of some anxiety. Right. I actually think anxiety is a gift from God. And I think anxiety is kind of the mechanism that helps us fix a wrong path that we might be heading. So I don't think that there's been any time in my life that's been anxiety free. The problem happens when you allow the anxiety to run you versus you control it and look at it and say, what's the message? What do I have to learn from this anxiety? What do I have to do with this anxiety? And my goal is to get rid of the anxiety as much as possible, or lower it as much as possible, instead of live in it and become the victim of the anxiety.
Yes, so, I love that. Yes.
So and there's been money anxieties. I'm a breast cancer survivor. So that I'm like a little over 11 years.
Wow.
So, and my boys were 4 at the time when I was diagnosed, and my daughter was a junior in high school, and so I had anxieties that my children would grow up without me and wouldn't know me. So, all of those things, but, and people go, oh my God, we all have those stories. I mean, cancer sounds like a big one, but, even, anxieties with parents, them not understanding us, or anxieties with our children, or anxieties with friendships or lack thereof, right? And so I think the biggest thing for me is I have to look at that anxiety, and I fail at this sometimes, like but I have to look at it and say, I own you, you don't own me. And what do I have to learn from this? And what do I need to do to move forward so that I reduce the anxiety and turn that energy into positive, successful activity versus steeping in it?
Yeah, I absolutely love that. So for our audience, can you share some of your symptoms of anxiety that they may be able to relate to?
Well, there are different levels. Mine happens in my gut. I get nauseous.
Yeah.
Like I could get physically ill. So I relive conversations over and over and over again. And one of the things I have to do when I start to do that, and I replay it, and where I screwed up, and how I said the wrong thing, and I did the wrong thing, or I should have handled it differently. And I can, out of nowhere, get one of those conversations from 10 years, 15, 20 years that pop back in my head. And then I get nauseous again. I'm like, why do I, so I feel nauseous. Sometimes I get hot, and I get a physical reaction to the anxiety.
Yeah.
And then my mind races.
Okay. Yes.
So, the anxiety, for example, the anxiety around cancer, I'll go back to that for a moment.
Yeah,
so my boys were 4, I have breast cancer. I truly believe that I'm going to die. Whatever, that's the anxiety, right? Like that's the anxiety. And so I'm constantly living, I'll never see my boys be taller than me. I'll never see all these things, which now they're 5'11", and every day I go, I made it. I saw it, right?
Celebrate life. Yes.
So I look at, I had all of these, I had 50 benchmarks that I'd never see. And I wrote them down, and and then I started checking them off, and almost at all of them. One of them is my daughter getting married, and she's getting married in October. So I said, I'm going to control these, make a list, and I'm going to start checking them off, right? And so I rather than saying I'm not going to make it, here are all the things that I'm going to make. Number one.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I had through cancer was I had friends, and you'll appreciate this, that you've gone back to church, and I'm born and raised Jewish, and so never had a whole lot of church experience till my adult life, where one of my good friends is non-denominational, and when I was diagnosed, she said, I'd like to do a prayer group around you. So I had all these crazies in my head, like I'm gonna die, it's gonna be painful, it's gonna whatever, and all these things.
Yeah, that anxiety.
My children won't remember me. Who's gonna raise them? I started looking for wives for my husband that would be good parents to my children. All crazies, right? So I want to do a prayer around you, and I'm like, I don't want a prayer around me. That doesn't feel right. Yeah. So this is not for you, it's for me. That's what she says. So here's just I'm going to say no to my friend, right?
This is about me, yes.
I'm not going to say no to her.
Right.
So I have these women, wonderful women, praying for me in Jesus' name, which as a Jew has in a moment of, well, this is a little awkward, right? And I had this moment where I could feel this light and warmth, enter whatever it was, right? And there was this mantra that they kept saying, God, I believe you will heal her. God, I believe you will heal her. So I took that mantra. So I had whatever that moment was. It was absolutely a physical reaction moment, and my entire outlook flipped.
Wow.
And I went from, I know I'm going to die, I'm preparing to die, I'm all these things, to, you know what, God, I believe you're going to heal me. And so every time I would hit one of these crazies, I would change the conversation from, oh my God, you're going to die and your kids aren't going to grow up and they'll be in jail and they'll be, all these horrible things because you didn't raise them, to, God, I believe you will heal me. And I would just meditate over that mantra over and over again.
Wow.
And it calmed me. And the bottom line is, whatever the plan was going to be.
Yes.
But it calmed me in the moment to be able to appreciate where I was at that moment.
Yes. Wow. That's powerful. Yes.
I know that's a really long story to your question.
No, it was beautiful. I appreciate your vulnerability to share it, because so many people can relate because they've been there, whether it's through another illness or cancer or just debilitating anxiety. And what I hear you saying is you utilize that skill of being able to refocus, recenter yourself, to be able to just look at what is going to happen rather than what isn't. So it's creating that plan, which I often teach, that gives people some sort of level of control over an event that is uncontrollable to them at the time. So I love the way that you have coped with the anxiety. I think that's really powerful, and it helps our audience. So how was your husband through that time?
He's the nicest human being I've ever met. So that's the best way to say this. He's just nice and kind. And did everything he had to do. And he's just, that's just the best way to say that. The one thing is, I never saw his fear or his pain.
Yes.
Never. And even after, I am sure it was as great for him as the pain and the fear and the anxiety, but he's not one to show that. He whistles and he's happy and he's just happy. And my daughter was amazing. So she was 16. Okay. And she, really stepped into a role of helping to raise these babies, these 4-year-olds. So I had a lot of support.
That is wonderful. And and it just sounds like you guys came together. Oftentimes cancer can pull people apart or bring them together. And you guys were a great team and operated as a great team.
Yeah. And, anything comes up now, we just look at each other and go, it's not cancer.
That's right. Yes. Amen, Jesus, to that. Absolutely. Absolutely. So what are your career goals at this point?
Interesting. So I'm in the middle of reading a book called Built to Sell, which is how do you grow a business that's saleable, whether you want to sell it or not, but that it's saleable. So my answer that I give you today could be very different than what it would have been last week or next week, but it's where my mindset is right now. And it's the mindset really of I guess, as a company, you want to, it's different as an entrepreneur. There's lifestyle business. I want to feed my family and live a nice lifestyle and run my own calendar and all that fun stuff. And I don't ever have to worry about, time clocks and all the other fun stuff. And then there's, are we growing a business? And one of the reasons I joined Vengresso is, although I was seeing a really nice, successful level where I was in my career, it wasn't scalable. And there was only one me. And if I went on vacation, I didn't make any money, and like all those things. And
that's what I live.
I think career goal is to be part of the team at Vengresso, to grow it to a place where it's saleable, whether we decide to sell or not, which I think at one point we would. I mean, I can't imagine, I don't know when that would be, 10, 15 years, 5 years. But I think the career goal is to grow a business that thrives even when you're not working.
Love it. Yes. So what would you say is your legacy? I would imagine you have thought about this for a long time.
Well, so what I want my legacy to be is different than the path I'm on, I guess, in some ways. So there's a legacy. There's a legacy of the social selling, the LinkedIn training. I have a modicum of success in the world where a lot of people know who I am and get value from what I train, and there's some influencer level there, and I love that. But the legacy for me is that generations from now, that my great-great-grandchildren are all healthy, happy, successful paths. I shouldn't say it's not the path I'm on. It's not, I guess I am, I'm raising the kids that will raise the kids that will raise the kids, right? And so I think the legacy is that I leave happy family. That's really, I mean, what else is there? Like, I think, there's definitely, if that's the legacy I want, is that for great-grandchildren to look back, see, again, it's still about my ego, right? Great-grandchildren will look back and say, we had such a great-great-grandmother that really set us on this path of happy, healthy, successful. Yeah, it's still all about me. What am I going to say?
Well, I think it can be at a healthy level, though, when we are aware of it, right? It's not that it's self-absorbed. It's just that it helps you stay on track to want to thrive and do more and be more, because it's going to affect generations at a time. So not necessarily about you. I mean, it can come off that way, but at the same time, I think that, we have to put in that context that you are changing lives every single day and influencing people every single day. And that is part of what you're imparting to the children as well, right? Yeah.
I'd like to think so. Yeah.
Absolutely. So share with me the power of giving back for you. What are some ways that you have given back to others, and how has it affected you?
So giving back is still really around my professional life primarily.
Yes.
So, if people are in need, people that are unemployed, that are looking for help, I will always offer some help, or, to help to get them to the next level. I've had different levels of volunteering, both politically and around children and other things. I've never found the one real give back yet that will define the difference that I make outside of business, right? So my give back still is business. But I think there's always, there was a point where I thought it would be politics and that I could influence there and I could volunteer there, but I don't like it.
Yeah.
I like certain, I have positions on things that I'd like to support, but politics as a whole is really pretty ugly.
Yeah.
So I thought I'd go in that direction and decided, that's not for me. I'll still vote.
Yeah.
Well, that's right.
Yeah.
So, I'm in search of that thing, really, which is where my biggest give back will be.
Okay. It's interesting. I am working on a book and I'll be publishing it over the next month or so. I just have to finish the last chapter and my editor's on me about it. But it truly is about what we're talking about in terms of how we give back as leaders, and being the revolutionary leader that is vulnerable and transparent to empower those who we are leading. And so I truly believe, Brynne, as I've done research on you and have looked at the ripple effect that you have had on people's lives, that you're actually really giving back without even knowing it. Whenever you're creating the curriculum, whenever you are leading and teaching and training, you are creating that level of empowerment that allows that person to feel good about themselves and what they do. So I truly believe.
Thank you.
Yeah, you are a radical leader. You are an unsung hero that truly is touching lives, which is the reason I reached out to you, which is the reason I wanted this interview, because I see that ripple effect, Brynne. I see it.
Wow, thank you so much. That made my day for sure. Thank you.
Yeah.
And that's what feeds me. So that I can, I hope to make that kind of difference. So
yes, and you are. So move outside of hope and know that you are making a difference. So Brynne, if someone wanted to get a hold of you or your company, can you share the information?
Sure. So I'm the only Brynne Tillman on LinkedIn so far.
Yeah.
And the company is Vengreso, VENGRESO.com. We've got lots of great content and good goodies on our, lots of giveaways on our website, which is a lot of fun. And, I'm very accessible if you want, to the point where if you want to schedule a call with me, you can go to 15withbrynne.com and set up a call. So, yeah, that's
Perfect. And share with us the services that you offer for people.
So depending on where you fall, ultimately, Vengreso is a digital sales transformation company, and we take, whether you're an entrepreneur, anyone in sales or business development, so whether you're an entrepreneur or you lead a huge sales team, we actually take you through a process of identifying your goals on social. So how are we leveraging social and digital to grow your business? We help you map out your buyers, your conversations, your templates, your daily activity, your profile. We decide what tools are you going to use, video, or are you going to use podcasts as content, like what kind of content are you going to use? So there's a 10-step process. Actually, I won't bore you with all 10 at the moment, but you can find it on my profile on LinkedIn in my experience section if you were curious. And so we take people through this process so that they really start to change their behaviors around business development and sales. And we move it from the traditional approach and help them reach the 90% of buyers that won't answer calls or open doors, right? And we do that through leveraging LinkedIn, social selling, digital sales, leveraging your network and thought leadership to do that.
I love it. And I absolutely need you. I absolutely need you. I'm very good at giving everything away for free.
I don't think that's a problem. And the key is, I'm a big fan of offering insights and educating. I don't think that giving it away for free, the key is you have to convert those people to conversations. So the giving it away, it shouldn't completely be for free. It should be for conversations, right? Yeah. So when you give enough good information and you've got people engaging, it's a very small shift in the way we handle things, but it's about taking it offline and having phone calls. So you're like 90% there.
Yes. Yes. Well, I definitely want to be able to connect with you at that level because it's something I think I could really use your support and your help to grow, like many people listening to this podcast.
Great. I'd love to chat.
Yes. Yes. Brynne, is there anything else you wanted to share with us today?
You've got to love what you're doing. Our life here on earth is limited. Don't live it in fear. Don't live it in anxiety. Come from your best place and start to, if you feel you're stuck, you just have to reprogram your mindset. And a lot of it is mantras and just like teach yourself. Go outside of your body and act as if your friend is the one in trouble and really counsel yourself. And have a goal. Mm-hmm. Whatever that goal is, maybe the goal is to be happy, and you've got to keep reaching back out to that goal and making sure that everything you're doing here in your life is working toward it.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for the words of wisdom. I appreciate your time, Brynne. It has been a joy getting to know you.
Oh, thanks, Christy. This has been fun.
Yes, I look forward to supporting your efforts and what you're doing in the business field. I know I'll definitely be able to make referrals, and thank you so much for coming on to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And thank you for joining Unsung Heroes Live as we were here talking with Brynne Tillman. Until next time, be real, be raw, and just be who you are.